We're in 2 Timothy chapter 4, verse 9 and 10. We we talked about the principal character there, Demas, last time. And today the question on the floor is, how do you not be like Demas? Well, let's kind of unpack that. The outstanding or the biggest thing that Paul writes about Demas is that he deserted Paul because he loved this world. I said this last time, I'm not sure that what Paul is saying is that Demas, well, he abandoned God. He forsook the faith. He deserted his devotion. I don't think that's necessarily the case. It could have been, absolutely. But I think if that had been the case, Paul didn't hold back on other occasions talking about people who had abandoned the faith. But here he talks about Demas as having loved the world, and that motivated him to leave Paul. Okay, how do we not fall into this category? How do we not be like Demas? Okay. The temptation is for me to become judgmental toward anybody, virtually everybody, because to one degree or another, don't all of us still battle a love of the world? I do. I love, well, I'll just, you're not guilty. I'm not making you guilty of my stuff. But for me, my love of the world kind of shows up in terms of I love comfort and convenience. I love being able to get from point A to point B quickly on my terms. I love stuff like I don't think everybody is this way, but I think a lot of us are. I don't think we really even know how much we love stuff until it's time to move and we realize we've got a house full of stuff here, and a lot of it, well, we just don't need. Some of it we do, and some of it we need because it supports our comfort and our lifestyle. Am I talking about sin here? Probably not, or maybe I should say maybe not. If sin enters this, then it would be the thing that would cause any of this to be sin is if I set my stuff up as idols. Well, we're not doing that. I don't bow down to my computer. I don't bow down to my flat screen TV or my nice vehicles. Well, no. Except it's possible that I let them have more of my heart than they deserve. I mean, think about this. The things that we acquire that we sometimes fall in love with, they're just things. They're inanimate objects. They have no soul. They have no feelings. They cannot think. Even if you've got a slamming, smoking computer that has high capability for artificial intelligence. It has no soul. Well, duh. I mean, all that's obvious. But we don't live as though it were obvious. I think sometimes I don't think we consciously worship our convenience and our comfort. But boy, do we work pretty hard to protect and secure our comfort and convenience. I do. I I don't like that about myself. You know, this is just a big ramble today, and you know, even if I apologize for it, doesn't make it not a ramble. Much of my anxiety, not all, but much of my anxiety is the result of me having given too much of my attention, affection, regard to things that can go away. I mean, I live in Edmond, Oklahoma. It's kind of right in the tornado alley. And there are people not that far from me who have lost everything in 3 minutes because of a tornado. All that stuff is scattered somewhere between Texas and Kansas. Well, because of that, it doesn't make sense to invest my affection, my love, my faith in stuff. All right. So a part of this thing of loving the world has to do with the place we give to stuff. I just can't get away from this principle. Jesus said it. He said, you can't serve two masters. And he was talking about money and God. And he said, you will love the one and hate the other. That's how it works. You can't truly love both. One of the aspects of this loving the world has to do with the fact, and John, the apostle, wrote this in 1 John, that you can't love the world and love God. It's not possible. Now, okay, but what about John 3:16? God loved the world. Yeah, we're not talking about loving the world in the same sense here, okay? For a believer, for a follower of Jesus, we have to have a love of people in the world. And that love has to compel us to do and say things to represent life to those people. And I mean, that's a soft way of phrasing the whole thing. I mean, why else would, well, the term evangelism, boy, it means a lot of different things. And a lot of people take the meaning of that in a very guilt-inducing way, right? You got to be telling, when's the last time you told somebody about Jesus? I visited a church over the weekend where that in their printed bulletin, that was on the bottom. When was the last time you told someone about Jesus? Which maybe I'm reading the inflection into that from my own history, but it is a legitimate question. When was the last time I told anybody about Jesus? If I love the world in as best I can in the way God loves the world, I want to tell the world, and that equals people about what God has done in Jesus to save the world, to save them. I've said this a bunch of different times in a lot of different ways, but how I do that, that's not prescribed. It's that I do it that's prescribed. Okay, if I love the world in that sense, there's a little bit of a, I don't know, outcome there, that to love people in the world means I'm going to have to love my convenience less. I'm going to have to love my things less. I may even have to contemplate how much is enough. Like, I've got enough. Do I need that new whatever? See, people who love the world tend to not be very generous, because when we love the world and the stuff in the world, our things, we're going to do what we can to keep and acquire. And that means a significant percentage of our income goes to keeping and acquiring. And there's not very much left over to be generous with. I am so grateful for people in my life who taught me how to be generous. When I was a kid, my mom taught me how to be generous. We didn't have much. I really and truly, I think God always provided. But there were weeks we were holding our breath because we didn't know how he was going to provide. And for him to provide, it took what felt like miracles to us. But even at that, my mom taught me, and I think one of the reasons that she gave my brothers and sister and I an allowance is so that she could teach us how to give a tenth, a tithe of that into the offering. What do you think about this? When I was a little kid, I got 50 cents a week, and that was pretty big time. Way back in like 1962 or 3. Well, she didn't give me 2 quarters. She gave me a quarter, 2 dimes, and a nickel. And here's why. Because a nickel of that was 10%. I could put that nickel in the offering plate. Is a nickel going to make a difference in the big picture? No, not even in 1963. That's not the picture we're talking about. I'm talking about my heart, your heart. So one of the safeguards against falling in love and being in love with the world is active generosity. C.S. Lewis, my favorite author and one of my heroes, he was a very generous man. And his view on giving was, if it doesn't pinch you, if it doesn't limit you, you're not giving enough. Well, and he demonstrated this in his own life. Well, okay, giving is one of the ways to not be Demas, is to cultivate generosity. That's an individual thing. Who you're generous with and how you're generous, God will guide you in that. A second thing is, where's my focus? And a lot of us as adults, one of our focus points is going to be, how am I going to make enough money to support myself, my family, obligations? And that's not a bad focus. But the problem is, if that becomes our consuming focus, well, see, here's the thing. What you love is, we discover what we love by looking at our focus. So my thought is, one of the reasons I have a daily quiet time is because I've got to redirect my mind and my heart towards something other than that. Community. I'm going to go over time. Sorry. Connecting with other believers. It cultivates in us this awareness that people matter and things matter, but not very much, almost not at all in comparison. My prayer times of prayer, they help me to contextualize things, this world, the problems in the world. Because when I pray, it draws me, I have to think about God is in control here. What I am is a servant. I'm just a steward. Viewing my life as a steward as opposed to an owner is one of the ways that I find is helpful in helping me not be a Demas. Ultimately, it comes down to two things: my heart and my mind. The key is cultivating my sensitivity to God's design, to His heart, to His ways, to His nature, so that I can reflect that back out into the world. And when I say the world, I'm not talking about the physical stuff in the world. I'm talking about people. And one of the big things that hinders that for me is a focus on stuff, not on the world. And that's not even right. My first focus has to be on God and His nature, His ways, His design, His thoughts, as best I can understand them. And then on reflecting that. When I am more in love with me and the stuff, that'll never happen. Okay, I got it off my chest, so I'm going to declare good enough. We'll move on next time on So Care with Stevie Boy.